President Obama was in Miami today, touting his signature domestic achievement, the Affordable Care Act, or Obamacare.
Fought to make sure that in America, health care is not just a privilege, but a right for every single American. And that's what I want to talk about today.
The president urged people to take advantage of the open enrollment period that begins on November 1st. But the bill right now has some serious problems. The law is supposed to provide health insurance to almost every American, either through a policy purchased in a state marketplace or by the expansion of Medicaid, which is government-sponsored health care for lower-income people. But in 2012, the Supreme Court ruled that states don't have to expand Medicaid. And that's become a popular way for red states to revolt against the law. Even though the federal government covers the cost of Medicaid, 19 states have opted not to expand it on principle. That's left nearly 3 million adults in the so-called coverage gap. They make too much to qualify for traditional Medicaid, but not enough to qualify for private insurance subsidies. In North Carolina, there are 244,000 people in that group. Roberto Ferdman traveled to the state to meet with one family struggling to live without insurance.
Good morning. You've been sleeping all morning.
Angela Smith doesn't work. She has to spend virtually all of her time taking care of her son Alan, who was born with hydrocephalus, a condition where excessive fluid in the brain causes permanent brain damage.
I can't go out and get a job. These places, they hire you to do a job, and so they expect you to be there. And to me, my son comes first because he requires 24-hour care.
Because of his disabilities, Alan is covered through Medicaid, but Angela and her husband Roger don't qualify for any coverage. Roger makes roughly $19,000, but in North Carolina, a family of three has to make at least $20,000 for the government to help them buy insurance, and the cutoff for Medicaid is $8,000. So when they get sick, they have to take their chances. Last year, it almost cost Roger his life. He waited until he was emaciated and vomiting bile before seeing a doctor.
They found out that I had diverticulitis, so stomach disease. Couldn't stay in the hospital, didn't have the money to do that. They wanted me to, so I just come home and she took care of me and we just went from there.
Obamacare was supposed to help avoid these situations.
What was the Affordable Care Act supposed to do as it was constructed?
Well, so if you go back to the way the original Affordable Care Act law was constructed, the idea was really seamless coverage for people. If you were poor or near the poverty level, you would be guaranteed Medicaid. If you were above that level but didn't have access to employer coverage and couldn't afford to buy it on your own, you'd get this subsidy. The Supreme Court said that the Medicaid expansion would be voluntary for states, and a number of states have decided not to expand Medicaid, meaning that poor people in those states don't have access to really any help.
Say it off for me. My finger again.
One local doctor thinks the state is committing a grave injustice. When North Carolina decided to not expand Medicaid, what went through your mind?
I knew exactly what it meant. I've watched people die in the last 30 years because they have not had insurance. I've had folks present to me very late with conditions that I could have literally saved their lives if I'd heard about their problems earlier. And I was not going to remain silent on that. I had to speak out.
In April, Dr. Steve Luking wrote an open letter to North Carolina's Governor, Pat McCrory, urging him to expand Medicaid. We reached out to the governor. He didn't respond to several requests for an interview or comment.
I cannot fathom working much longer in a system where our working poor, the very folks who all this was originally intended to help the most, are completely left out. The politicians made a partisan decision, and I think that's a damn shame.
Partisan or not, until North Carolina expands Medicaid, Angela and Roger will live without health insurance, which is becoming increasingly risky. When Roger was diagnosed with diverticulitis, he was told he needs a colonoscopy to make sure he didn't have colon cancer.
I don't have the money to go have that done. There's no insurance to get it done. And she needs to go to regular doctor too, and it's a health problem she has. We don't have the money to do it, no insurance.
When you see a smile like that, it's just enjoyment. Even though that's a brief moment, that's a moment that's here. And that's what makes all of this worth everything that I do.